Welcome back. This week is habit number 6, the habit of competing with yourself. The saddest thing that we can do is compare ourselves to others. We may look at other people and wonder if we can be as good as them or have what they have. You may think that in order to succeed and do well in life, you need to compete with other people, but that cannot be further from the truth. The only person that you can and should compete with is yourself. When you compete with yourself, you stop being susceptible to living a life prescribed by others. You run your own race. You march to the rhythm of your own drum. When you compete with yourself, you build the life that matters to you and not one that others deem desirable. And when you compete with yourself, you free yourself from others' measures of success and worthiness. So here's a story about this very thing. In 1995, right after finishing our master programs, my former husband and I began our e-learning company right from our bedroom. We were bootstrapping it, and the only capital we had was a loan that the bank gave us matching the savings we had, which at that time wasn't very much. There were some painful times because our competition had a lot more than we did. We were just two kids right out of university with a dream. Perhaps we were naive and we were ignorant in many ways, which in this case worked to our advantage, because had we known what was ahead, we probably would have never started a business. But two competitors come to mind in telling you this story because they were sleek, they were powerful, and they were buying the competition right, left, and center. They had so much money that they developed their own technology. We, on the other hand, couldn't afford to build our own, so we had to source companies that would allow us to license it. They had beautiful and massive presentation booths that took multiple rental spots at conferences and at the trade shows. We had a little tabletop. They had so much venture capital behind them that they were flying business class, staying at the nicest hotels at the conferences, and we were flying coach and staying at motels. We carry and set up our own booths. They would bring an army of salespeople. It was just the two of us. So in the beginning, we wore more hats than I cared to remember, and every day was a fight to survive in an industry that was exploding. It would have been normal and human for us to compare ourselves to them and give up. On the surface, any outsider looking in would not think that a small company like ours could survive. I mean, it was impossible to compete with them, so we didn't. But had we given into that impulse of comparing ourselves to them, we probably would have either closed shop early, or we would have made decisions that went against our values because we didn't want to be bought or merged with one of our competitors like they offer many times, or take investors' money because we wanted to keep full control of the company. My former husband had a saying that resilience trumps resources. And by us competing with ourselves and not the fancy competition with our venture capital money, we played to our strengths. We didn't play to our weakness because we would have been out of business. That forced us to run our own race, and that meant we needed to find ways to think out of the box, to do things that were never done before, to innovate and be more resourceful. We were so small and so off the radar that they never saw us coming. And to make a long story short, they were the Goliath and we were David. Because we couldn't compete with them on the technology side, we never attempted to build our own. And unbeknownst to us, that was going to be our saving grace. Instead, we chose to become the best hosting and support company of e-learning platforms. So we license the technology from those very competitors who spend millions and millions developing and updating, and we simply built a turnkey service around the technology that was unique in the industry at the time, offering 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days support for student and faculty. We began with one platform, and as the Goliaths came into the market with their sleek technologies, we added them to our offering. So at one point, we were servicing 7 e-learning platforms and offering our clients choices. We became the Switzerland in the distance education community. If a school chose to do business directly with one competitor, then that school was locked in using that one technology for all their distance learning programs, whether or not that technology was the best suited to their particular needs. If they chose to do business with us, then the school could choose among 7 different platforms and select the ones that were best suited for the individual needs of their programs rather than one size fits all model. So while our competitors were spending millions trying to come up with the next gimmick, we were focused on how do we become the best support company that we could ever be, knowing that we were only good as the day before. And to give you some perspective, back in the 1990s, online programs dropout rates were 70 to 90%. This means that out of 10 students, a school is losing 7 and their revenue just a few weeks into the program. But because of our company's support and retention services, we lower that industry standard for our clients, dropping the rate to a mere 10%, giving our schools unheard of retention rates of 90%, which more than justified our fees. And that's how we became the David, and the Goliaths never saw us coming, because we learned this powerful habit of competing with ourselves and becoming better than we were the day before. So let me tell you something. If 2 kids right out of school with no money, no connections, no experience or team could play with multi-million-dollar venture capital companies and win, so can you. Here are a few strategies to help you in developing the habit of competing against yourself. Interrupt the pattern. Anytime you find yourself wishing to have or be like others, simply interrupt yourself. Okay, a lot of our comparisons happen below our awareness, so being vigilant when you catch yourself having those thoughts is interrupting the pattern. And the more you do this, the more you practice interrupting yourself when you have those thoughts, the more aware you will become, and eventually you will not need to resort to that comparison. Now, admiring others is a good thing because it can serve you as inspiration and motivation for what is possible, but never at the expense of tearing yourself apart, never at the chance of underappreciating your own gifts. Sometimes when I'm reading a book from a gifted writer, my mind tells me we will never be as good as them. And I respond back out loud, that's okay, we're a different kind of writer. And that is how you begin to interrupt that pattern. Recognize that every person's different and every person has different gifts. For the longest time, I felt inadequate in my abilities. I would compare myself to my former husband, who is smart, techie. He just has a way of knowing how to do everything. In university, everything I achieved felt tainted by his accomplishments, which they always seemed to be superior. In the business, it was the same. I felt that everything that I had was because of association and that he was the true brains behind the business. Intellectually, I knew that I had my strengths and skills that he was either missing or he was less astute in. But emotionally, I always felt less than him. I couldn't measure up to him, nor should I have to. What a horrible way to live life. Each time you live by comparison, you will always feel less than. Since then, I've learned to let go of all those crazy notions and focused on what I'm good at. I am not longer focusing on anyone else's but my skills and my gifts and my strengths, and I celebrate the areas that I excel in. So the next time you find yourself comparing yourself to others, turn your attention inward and make a list of your gifts and admire what you're good at and find something that is uniquely yours. And the more you practice doing this, the less power you will give to that impulse of comparing to others. Raise your own bar. Each day, try to become a little bit better than you were the day before. Be kinder, more giving, more forgiving, more loving, more expressive, more cooperative, more joyful, more patient, more accepting, and more human. Ask yourself, how can I become a better parent, a better partner, friend, son, daughter? That is how you raise the bar, by pushing yourself to outdo yourself. Not everything that shines is gold. Be mindful not to fall in the trap of social media. The bodies and the lives that we admire don't tell the full story. Skinny, perfect complexions, jet setting to different destinations is just an illusion. Nobody knows what's behind the glitter. What may seem like the perfect light to you may not be that at all. There was a model that I followed and admired. She had the perfect body, perfect life, and I wanted to have what she had. Years later, the story of her life came out about her struggle with bulimia, anorexia, drug abuse, and her inability to find love. And I very quickly didn't want her life and became grateful for what I have. So before you go compare your life to others, know that there's always more than meets the eye. Before you underappreciate your life, know this. Right now, there are people looking at your life and wanting to have what you have. So practice gratitude. Become grateful for what you already have. Comparing yourself to others will make you better. Competing with yourself will make you better. Don't become a copycat. You have your own skills and gifts and abilities, and that is what the world wants to see. The world doesn't want another copycat who, by comparing themselves to others, they simply replicate what everybody else is doing. Okay, have the courage to go on your own gifts, on your own skills, your own strengths. And if you can do this, you will like yourself better, and the world will thank you. Thank you for spending this time with me. And if you missed any of the previous success habits, I am putting the links to the previous episodes on the show notes of this video, or you can simply search for Waleuska's Top 10 Habits for a Successful Life. And stay tuned, because next week is habit number 7, the habit of rising before the sun. I'll see you on the next episode.